welcome back for my next video of my October Eve series. It's finally here. I got my hands on the Lawn Fawn Ta-Da Diorama and we're going to be trying it out for the first time together today. I'm so stoked. I also have the wolf before and after, the hillside add-on dies, and then these adorable, stinking cute stitched pumpkin dies that just came out. I'm also bringing in this stamp set from my stash that I love. I have the grassy hill stencil and the nighttime sky stencil. We're going to be making an all Lawn Fawn crazy fall Halloween inspired Ta-Da diorama. I also grabbed, you know it, my Lawn Fawn paper pad, so I have stripes and sprinkles and then watercolor wishes. So we're going to be using some of that. I have this orange stripe, this green watercolor. We're going to be bringing in some purple from both of those packs as well. And then I have some black cardstock. So the one thing I will tell you is I watched the Lawn Fawn intro video for the Ta-Da diorama like a good 5 or 6 times probably, and it's a long video, but it's extremely helpful. Kelly walks you through every single step of making it, and I cannot recommend it enough. This is less of me teaching you how to make it and more of me just sharing my experience making it for the first time with you, so you can see that it is not difficult to make. But I will tell you now that the end result, the little cover piece, my stripy orange piece that I put on, it moves around a lot and it makes it slightly difficult to use. So I think the problem is that the cardstock that I used might have been too thin, or the cardstock that I used to cut the tabs that go on the back of that frame piece might have been too thin, because it just shifts around a lot. So when I make the next one of these, I'm going to try using much heavier weight cardstock for everything, or like backing that frame panel with an actual cardstock instead of just using the pattern paper. And I'm not sure if that will solve it or not, but that's my best guess. So these are the side panels. You cut these little feet dies go on the side panels, and you cut little notches for our grassy hills to go on. The stamp or the die set does come with straight across panels that you can insert. I don't want to say panels. Straight across shelves, if you will, that you can insert. But I loved the grassy hill, and so I knew the hill, and that you can use it for snow or grass or whatever you want. I knew I was gonna need those, so I just went ahead and grabbed those while I was at it getting my Ta-Da diorama dies. So what I did was I cut an additional white cardstock piece with that main Ta-Da kind of ticket shaped die, and then I just trimmed off the notches, and I'm creating a nighttime sky using my nighttime sky stencil. So I'm using the negative part of the moon to kind of create my moon shape, going in with Villainous Potion and Black Soot. And then to bring in some shimmer, I grabbed the unraveled mica stain, spray stain from Tim Holtz Distress line. I love it. Look at that shine. It's so pretty. I'm also going to go in with my Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White and a tiny bit of water, and I'm going to splatter little white dots all over this to be my stars, and between that and the shimmer, I think it turned out beautifully. Here's a like real-time kind of shift with that. I love how this sky turned out. 10 out of 10 recommend. So I'm going to go in with Scattered Straw for my moon, which is a very different color for me for my moons. But I love how this turned out. I love this subtle glow that it gives. And the craters I used to begin with were way too small, so I went in with the bigger size craters, and that was perfect. And now I'm just going to add this panel on to my black backer panel. I didn't want the edges of this to be white. I wanted them all black. So I thought it was easier to just add a panel to it versus trying to, ink blend everything. I'm not 100% sure that it matters, but in the end you can see the black edges when those other panels kind of pull out. For my hillsides, I cut these from that green watercolor Wishes paper, and then I went in with a couple different green distress inks to add in some grass kind of shape. For some of this, I went in with the kind of positive side of the stencil, and the other one I went in with the negative, just kind of playing around and seeing what I liked. In the end, you don't really notice it as much as just kind of giving some texture and interest. But I really like that it helps kind of break everything up and just kind of darkens everything a little bit. I added the tiniest bit of black soot to these as well. Most of it's the forest moss and a little tiny bit of mowed lawn. But I thought it just, again, helped kind of add to that Halloween feel. I had already placed the adhesive onto these side panels before I realized that they needed to go on after my night sky was in place. So I was just sitting on the side pre-glued, and then I added them right in there, and they cover perfectly. The notches on these hillsides, I don't know if it was just me. This took me a little bit of time to get these kind of wiggled through. The first one was fine. I think it's because I didn't use a bone folder, and I think if I had, it would have been a lot easier to get these tucked in. So these are the little strips that go on the back of the frame. This is what I'm saying. Maybe I needed these to be of a heavier cardstock. Maybe I should have folded them over so that it was just a little bit tighter. There just seems to be an awful lot of wiggle room with these on, and with those door panels kind of going into them. You'll see it shifts around from side to side a lot. And from watching the Lawn Fawn video, it did not seem like that was happening to her. So I'm going to assume that it's user error somehow. I'm just not positive. So it still works. You can see I'm testing it out. I still get that beautiful pop-up. It's just that, like, in shipping, I would be worried that it might shift a little bit side to side. It wouldn't break, it wouldn't tear, it wouldn't be ruined. It would just be inconvenient for the recipient if when they got it, it wasn't loaded and ready to go. I did pull 2 of these tiny bats from that old Trick or Treat stamp set. And I have my little tiny pumpkin here. So I die cut that from my Copic Express It paper, which is what I also stamped my tiny graveyard, my scary tree, and my howling wolf onto. And I'm going to use my Copics to color in this pumpkin. And then at the end, I decided that the front panel just being plain black was too plain. So we're also going to repeat the same process with one of the bigger pumpkins, but we'll get to that later. So once I had my pumpkin all shaded in, I just went in with some nice dark browns for my spooky tree. I wanted it to be pretty much silhouette up against everything else. And I colored in my little tiny mini graveyard. I love this stamp from this stamp set. It's so cute. The little graveyard and the tiny trick-or-treaters are absolutely my favorite. So I went in and shaded in the grass in front of there. And then I also added some green to the base of my tombstones and the base of my tree. Later, we'll go back and add some purple to the white border to kind of help it disappear into the background. I was really fine with the wolf kind of standing out with the white border because it's the focus, but I wanted all of my other background elements to kind of blend into the background more. So I used some warm gray markers for my wolf, definitely keeping his body a lot deeper than the bottom of his face and his little ruff around his neck. I just love the way that these are drawn, and I love that they can be scary like werewolf wolves, or they could be like wintry or fall wolves depending on what you're using them for. This before and after set is meant to be used with one of the other interactive dies from Lawn Fawn, but I think that it's just adorable to use for whenever. You don't have to use them together. I think that they're perfect if you like the wolves, but you're not ready to commit to that full-size stamp set. I just wasn't sure if I would use it enough to make it worth it. So I'm going to adhere my wolf to the top of this pumpkin from the back so that that white border is kind of hidden where his feet are. He's going to get added up there. But first, I wanted to get my graveyard and my tree into place. So here's where you can see I'm adding in some purple on the upper parts around in that white border, just to help these kind of blend into the sky. And when they're in place, I'll actually go back in and add just a little bit extra green. And because the purple I used was pretty light, it was a BV, like a light BV marker, it blended in really well. Like I didn't have any problem adding in the green here. Excuse the top of my head that you can see. I wanted to get right in there really close. So now you can see they kind of just blend right into the background. And then our wolf will go up towards the front on that panel that is closer to us. So a little bit of my Tombow adhesive runner, and I got that into place, still checking to make sure that everything would fold smoothly. And then I added at the last minute that Awoo stamp. So cute. From the wolf before and after stamp set. I added that to the moon kind of behind the wolf. And this is a scrap of the purple watercolor Wishes paper. I stamped this sentiment from that stamp set that How'll Always Be Your Friend. I stamped that on there and used the banner die, one of the banner dies that comes with the Ta-Da Diorama. I love that you get kind of everything you need all in one kit all together. And this is that larger stitched pumpkin that I cut. I'm coloring up the exact same way that I did the wolf's pumpkin that he's sitting on, going in and just kind of adding that texture and really enhancing the different like lobes or segments of the pumpkin with those really bright punchy oranges. And we'll also color in the stem, and then to add it to the front to make sure that it splits correctly, I'm gonna put it in my wire paper trimmer and literally cut it in half. And I can promise you that for anybody who's like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do that, it was not easy to do. It took me a minute to be like, no, it's fine. No, it's really fine. No, it's really fine. Just cut the paper. So just know that if that's something that you would be nervous doing, that you're not alone. But it turned out great. So once I had that adhered, you can see here I am lining it up in my paper cutter, my trimmer, and I will cut it right down the middle and get that added to those front panels. So first I slid the door pieces back into that frame. I added some liquid glue to the bottom of my banner and got that tucked into place, making sure that it wasn't too high or too low so that you could still see all of the details inside my diorama when it was open. And then I added one side of the pumpkin at a time so I could be sure that it was lined up correctly, and just press that into place, again using that that Tombow mono adhesive was like a lifesaver today. So then I decided I wanted it to go on a full-size card base. So I took some of the purple tone-on-tone sprinkle paper from that same Stripes and Sprinkles paper pad and added it to a black card base. Then I went in and added some adhesive to the back of our diorama and just popped that right on the front. So when this is all said and done, you can see it folds completely flat. I was amazed at how flat this is. And then you can just pull those sides out to the side and the diorama pops up. You can kind of see here that my frame is a little bit shifty. So a work in progress, but for my first time, I definitely recommend the diorama. If you've been wanting it or nervous, I do think that it is easy enough to use, that my first one out of the gate is pretty good and is definitely able to be sent out to a loved one for Halloween. So don't be nervous, be adventurous, try something new, have fun, get crafty, get inky. Know that I appreciate you, and I will see you back here tomorrow with another Halloween video. And until then, guys, happy crafting.